Hello everyone and welcome. Today I want you to picture yourself standing at the edge of an ancient forest, its towering trees stretching up to the heavens, their leaves whispering with the breeze. The air is cool, filled with the subtle scent of pine and earth, and the sky above is a deepening shade of twilight. You're no longer in a world bound by modern comforts, but rather one where survival relies on intuition and the rhythms of nature. This is a time when humans have not yet tamed the land, when fire is their only ally against the biting cold of the night, and the stars above are more than just a beautiful sight. They are the beacons that guide them home. In this world, the sounds are different too. There are no engines or the hum of electricity. Instead, you hear the rustling of leaves as small creatures scurry in the underbrush, the distant cry of a wolf, and the soft crackling of a fire, an essential element of life. The fire flickers warmly at the heart of your campsite, casting long, comforting shadows across the forest floor. But as the temperature drops with the setting sun, the comfort of the fire alone is no longer enough. For those who live here, warmth is not just a luxury, it is a matter of life and death. This is the world of prehistoric humans. They lived close to the land, reliant on their wits and the resources nature provided. There were no cozy homes to retreat to, no insulated walls to block out the cold. Instead, the night would bring the cold winds, the chill of the earth, and the persistent reminder of their vulnerability. How did they manage to stay warm when the world was so harsh, when the seasons turned with a relentless certainty? Now, imagine yourself nestled against the warmth of a fire, its crackling flames a source of safety and comfort, but you can't remain by it forever. Eventually, you'll need to rest, to sleep through the long, frigid night. The warmth you now feel from the fire will soon wane, and the night will be a deep, dark void, with only the stars to guide you through its vast expanse. So, what did prehistoric humans do when the cold reached beyond the warmth of their fires? How did they endure those long, freezing nights that seem so far removed from our modern comforts? The answer lies in their understanding of both their environment and their bodies, as well as their ingenuity in using simple yet effective tools like clothing and fire to stay warm. We're going to explore that answer now, gently uncovering the secrets of how these ancient people survived the cold and how their methods of staying warm echo into our modern lives. The world of prehistoric humans was, in many ways, defined by extremes. Summers brought warmth, but winters were unforgiving. In the northern latitudes where early humans made their homes, the winters could last for months, plunging the world into darkness with the cold creeping in relentlessly. For early humans, living in these conditions meant finding ways to preserve body heat and protect themselves from the elements. Before the discovery of fire, humans likely relied on their own bodies to conserve heat. In the dark, chilly forests or the barren landscapes that stretched across the Ice Age, staying warm was not just a matter of comfort, it was essential for survival. Imagine yourself now, standing on the edge of a frozen tundra, the cold wind biting through your skin. The landscape is barren, the horizon stretching out endlessly, and you have to think about how to survive the night. There are no electric heaters, no blankets to wrap yourself in. Instead, you have only what nature provides, and the warmth you can create with your body and your surroundings. One of the first ways early humans managed to stay warm was by huddling together. In a world without insulation or modern shelter, there is a deep instinct to seek the company of others for warmth. In these early communities, people would have gathered close to share body heat. creating a collective warmth to combat the chill of the night. However, this communal warmth wasn't always enough, especially when the night grew bitterly cold and the threat of hypothermia loomed large. It's here that we begin to see how prehistoric humans, through trial and error, discovered the power of clothing as a barrier against the cold. Imagine now the first moments of clothing. There would have been no tailoring or weaving of fine fabrics as we know it today, but rather a practical, simple approach to creating warmth. Early humans likely started with the most basic forms of protection: animal hides. They would have used the pelts of the animals they hunted, wrapping themselves in the thick, insulated fur of creatures that once roamed the earth. The texture of the hides would have been rough at first, but with time, humans would have learned how to soften and manipulate these materials. They would have learned to fashion simple garments from these skins, basic cloaks, wraps, and furs that draped over their bodies like a natural armor against the elements. These garments didn't have the intricate designs or the fine tailoring that we associate with clothing today, but they were effective in their simplicity. Now, as you sit by the fire, think about the sensation of these animal pelts on your skin. The fur is soft and dense, the outer layer smooth, while the inside, with its coarse texture, feels like a shield against the biting cold. The fire crackles, but it's the warmth of these early garments that truly shields you from the night's chill. The materials used for these garments were chosen not just for warmth, but for their practicality. Animal hides provided insulation, while their outer layers protected against the wind and rain. The fur itself trapped warm air next to the body, much like modern down jackets do today. As you drift deeper into the night, the thought of these early solutions for warmth becomes comforting, almost meditative, knowing that, like these ancient people, you too find warmth in simple yet effective ways. Yet, no garment, no matter how expertly crafted, could entirely protect early humans from the brutal forces of nature. The cold would find its way into even the thickest layers of fur, and the dark, endless winters would press in with a force that no animal pelt could withstand. It was here that fire became humanity's most vital tool for survival, and it wasn't just a way to stay warm. It was the lifeblood of early human existence. Fire, for prehistoric humans, was a magical, life-sustaining force. The first fire would have been a small flickering thing, perhaps kindled by sparks or lightning, or carefully crafted from friction. Imagine the first humans huddling together around that fire, the heat radiating outward, keeping the predators at bay and providing a sense of safety in a world that was both beautiful and terrifying. As the fire grew, so did its importance. It wasn't just a source of warmth, but a tool for cooking, a method of preserving food and a signal of civilization in a land filled with uncertainty. The warmth it provided would have been a comforting constant, something to gather around during the long, dark nights. When the fire burned, it meant life. When it went out, survival was uncertain. Picture yourself now, wrapped in your fur garments, sitting close to the fire. The warmth is soothing, and the flickering light dances across the trees. The crackling of the flames is the only sound in the otherwise quiet, still night. You close your eyes for a moment, and in the crackling of the fire you can hear the faint echoes of those early humans, their lives intertwined with the same warmth you now experience. The fire is not just their survival, it is their connection to the world, a constant that keeps them grounded even as the cold winds howl in the distance. As the night deepens and the fire continues to burn, Think about the ways early humans adapted to the cold. Their ingenuity in using fire, their understanding of how to fashion clothing from the world around them, their capacity to build communities that could share warmth. These were the survival strategies that kept humanity alive in a world that was often indifferent to their survival. Take a deep breath. Imagine now, walking through the forest at night, the cool air brushing against your skin, the warmth of the fire still in the distance, but with each step you feel the comfort of the clothes that protect you. The fire in your mind continues to burn softly, a steady companion to your journey as you step into the rhythm of ancient survival. The path forward is simple but profound. These early humans, with their creativity and connection to the land, found ways to survive the cold and keep their spirits warm. Just like them, you too can find warmth in the things around you. The warmth of your own thoughts, the gentle rhythm of your breathing, the soft crackling of a fire that now lives within your mind, guiding you through this peaceful night. And as you listen to this story, imagine the world of prehistoric humans, a time when warmth was both a necessity and a discovery. Their methods of survival still resonate today, reminding us that no matter how far we've come, the simplest tools, like fire and the warmth of the earth, remain our most fundamental allies. As you stand by the fire, the warmth slowly sinking into your bones, you begin to notice how deeply intertwined your survival is with the natural world around you. The flames crackle, dancing upward in the night, casting long shadows on the forest floor. There is something almost hypnotic about it. This unbroken cycle of fire, warmth, and cold. You realize that fire, in a sense, is life itself. Without it, survival in these harsh climates would have been nearly impossible. The primitive world around you is a constant reminder of that truth, wild, untamed, yet full of subtle beauty. It's hard to imagine now, with the warmth of the fire enveloping you, that the people who came before you had to learn not just how to survive, but how to harness the forces of nature to their benefit. Every night they would face the same challenge: how to stay warm through the cold hours, how to stretch the fleeting heat of the fire into the long, chilly darkness. And they did so by learning the language of the wind, the rhythm of the seasons, the subtle signs that would guide them to better shelters and more efficient fires. In the beginning, they likely relied on shelters made of natural materials, branches, leaves, and the simple but effective use of animal skins. These shelters, though rudimentary, would have offered some protection from the wind and rain, but they could never truly block out the cold. They were temporary, fluid, just as early human lives were. Imagine the texture of those shelters, the feel of the coarse bark as you press it into place, the roughness of the leaves as they rustle with every movement, their scent fresh and damp, mingling with the earthy smell of the forest floor. The light of the fire flickers against the walls of your makeshift shelter, casting shifting shadows that seem to dance with your every thought. The importance of the shelter cannot be understated. It was not simply a refuge, it was a protective cocoon, something that allowed early humans to endure the long nights without freezing, and perhaps, for the first time, it offered a sense of permanence. Imagine the sound of wind howling outside the shelter, pushing against the walls, urging the leaves to break free. But inside there's only the crackle of your fire, the warmth, the steady pulse of life in the cold wilderness. You feel the pull of the natural world, the connection between the warmth inside and the cold outside. But as essential as these shelters were, they alone could not keep out the night's chill. Humans needed more, something to wrap around their bodies, something that would hold warmth close, like an invisible shield. And this is where the art of clothing was born. In the days before weaving and spinning, humans turned to the simplest materials available to them, animal skins. These hides, thick with fur, would have been their first line of defense against the cold. But to turn these raw materials into effective clothing, they had to be carefully prepared. Imagine the process. First, the skin must be scraped clean, removing all excess fat and meat. Then, it must be stretched and dried so that it becomes more pliable. Over time, early humans learned the techniques that would transform these rough, unyielding materials into something wearable, something that would allow them to move freely while still keeping them warm. In the beginning, these garments were no more than cloaks or simple wraps that could be draped over the shoulders, secured by primitive fastenings. But as time passed, humans learned how to fashion these hides into more structured pieces of clothing. Tunics, pants, even rudimentary boots. They used bone needles and sinew to stitch the pieces together, creating seams that would hold tight even in the fiercest winds. There is something deeply primal about this, the idea that, with nothing but their hands and the materials the earth provided, early humans were able to create garments that would protect them from the harshest environments. Think now of wearing one of these early garments. The animal fur against your skin feels warm and comforting, its texture rough but soft in its own way. It's not the soft, finely woven fabrics of today, but something more organic, more connected to the earth. You pull the garment closer, and the fur traps the warmth of your body inside, insulating you from the frigid air that bites at the edges. You can feel the difference as you move, the slight resistance of the fur as it shifts with you, the weight of the hide pulling slightly at your shoulders, but the constant warmth that it provides is undeniable. You're wrapped in the world around you, both physically and symbolically. But as effective as animal skins were, they weren't perfect. The cold would seep through the seams during particularly bitter nights, and the fur, while insulating, wasn't always enough to shield against the relentless winds. The fire, the eternal companion, became crucial in the fight against the cold. It wasn't just a source of warmth, it was a ritual, a lifeline. Imagine the sensation of the heat rising from the flames, wrapping itself around your limbs, seeping into your very bones. It is both a physical and spiritual warmth, grounding you in the here and now, reminding you that you are alive. The fire was more than just a tool, it was a force of nature in its own right. Early humans learned how to make it, how to keep it alive through the long hours of the night. But more importantly, they learned how to use it to their advantage. They used the fire to dry their clothes, to soften the hides, to preserve food. The warmth of the fire and the warmth of their clothing became a dynamic system, each supporting the other in a delicate balance. As the fire burned, the warmth would spread, casting its glow against the dark, and early humans would have positioned themselves in such a way that the warmth from the fire would reach their shelters, their hides, and their bodies. They understood the way heat travelled, how it rose, how it was reflected and absorbed. Imagine the scene now, around the fire a group of humans, huddled together not only for warmth but for companionship. There's a subtle symphony of crackles, a steady hum of wind outside, but inside there's a quiet peace, a calm shared by those gathered around the fire. The shelter itself would have been designed to amplify the warmth from the fire. Early humans were attuned to the ways the world worked. They knew how to create a barrier against the elements and how to keep the fire burning for as long as possible. It was a careful dance between fire, shelter, and clothing. The smoke from the fire would have a distinct smell, strong and sharp, perhaps a bit overwhelming, but it was part of the ritual of survival. It was the smell of life being created in the most primal sense. But fire and clothing weren't the only tools early humans used to stay warm. They also turned to their environment, using the natural world to create insulation. Imagine walking through the forest, the dry leaves crunching beneath your feet, the crisp air settling on your skin. As you move, you come across a thicket of evergreens, their thick boughs heavy with needles. You gather them, using them as a bedding material, a simple but effective means of insulation. Early humans would have done the same, using whatever plant materials they could find to line their shelters, to add layers of warmth and comfort. These materials, leaves, ferns, moss, would have been more than just a soft place to rest. They were a way to keep the cold from seeping in, a natural layer of insulation that, when combined with the warmth of the fire and the protective clothing, would have made the difference between life and death. The knowledge of these materials, of how to gather and use them, was passed down through generations, each new group learning from the experiences of those who came before them. And there is something deeply comforting about this, isn't there? To think that, in the face of such adversity, humans found a way to thrive, not just to survive, but to adapt, to build systems that worked with the land rather than against it. As the night deepens and the fire flickers low, you can feel the cold creeping back into your bones. But the warmth of your clothing, the shelter, and the remaining embers of the fire are enough to keep you comfortable. You settle into your bedding of leaves and evergreen boughs, pulling the fur of your cloak tighter around you. The sounds of the forest are distant now, replaced by the soft hum of your breathing, the rhythm of your heart. The fire is still there, a gentle companion, though its light has dimmed to a soft glow. And as you drift off to sleep, you can't help but feel connected to those early humans, to their determination, their ingenuity, and their ability to adapt. The fire, the clothing, the shelter. They were all part of the same dance, the same survival strategy that ensured the continuation of the human race. This is just the beginning of the journey through prehistoric warmth and survival. There's much more to explore: the evolution of clothing, the expansion of fire use, and the way humans found warmth in the most unexpected places. The story is unfolding, and you can almost feel the cold of the night pushing in, the warmth of the fire, the embrace of the skins, and the profound connection humans had to the natural world in a time when survival required not just strength, but wisdom and resourcefulness. The night stretches on, and the fire's glow continues to bathe the camp in a soft, flickering light. You feel the rhythm of the forest settling into the background, like a distant heartbeat. There's a comfort in the night. The darkness that once seemed so vast and intimidating now feels more like a companion, its presence balanced by the fire's crackle and the warmth it spreads. The shadows cast by the fire dance slowly across the ground, as if echoing the pulse of a life around you. In this moment, the world feels still, yet alive. The fire, the shelter, and the clothing all come together in an unspoken harmony, simple, yet profound. The cold night air outside the shelter continues to creep closer, but you know the shelter will hold. It's not much, just a few carefully placed branches and some animal hides draped over the top. But it's enough, more than enough. This space, though humble, offers a kind of security, a sanctuary from the elements, a place to rest after the long hours of hunting and gathering. Here, amidst the rawness of nature, the simplest things have become the tools of survival. Inside, there's a stillness that invites you to reflect. You're surrounded by the deep scent of earth and wood, the faint, comforting odour of the animal hides that keep you warm, and the almost imperceptible scent of the fire's smoke that clings to the walls of your shelter. The smell of the smoke is more than just a scent. It's a marker of life, of continuity. It signals the presence of warmth and community, of human ingenuity and survival. In a world where so much is transient and fleeting, the fire is one of the few constants. Now, imagine the struggle between fire and cold. In the early days, when humans first tamed fire, there was no instruction manual, no blueprint to follow. The mastery of fire was a skill learned over generations, passed down in whispers, through trial and error. It wasn't just about building a fire, it was about making it last, about controlling it, keeping it from consuming everything, yet ensuring that it provided enough warmth to survive the night. The flames rise and fall, a dance of light and shadow. Early humans would have watched the fire intently, learning how to stoke it, how to feed it, how to protect it from the wind. The fire wasn't just a passive entity, it was something to nurture, to respect. It could be a destroyer, but it could also be a life giver. At the heart of the fire, you can feel the heat growing. It's a warmth that wraps itself around you, making the cold feel like a distant memory. But as you move further from the fire, you can feel the temperature drop. The cold seeps into your bones, and suddenly the fire doesn't seem like a warm presence anymore. It becomes a distant, fragile thing, a flickering light that can be easily extinguished by the harshness of the world. It's a reminder of how dependent humans were on fire, how they needed it not just for warmth, but for survival. Without fire, the night would have been a constant battle. A battle not just against the cold, but against the darkness itself. The garments worn by early humans weren't just functional, they were also symbols of survival, symbols of human connection to the earth. These were the first layers of civilization, the first indication that humanity was starting to shape the environment to suit its needs. Each piece of clothing, from the simplest cloak to the most intricate fur-lined tunic, told a story. The fur, carefully stripped from the animal, was more than just a material. It was a connection to the world around them. The clothes they wore were a record of their lives, their hunts, their skills, their triumphs, and their struggles. Every stitch, every layer of hide was infused with meaning. Imagine the careful attention that would have been required to create these garments. The skin had to be prepared with precision, the fur had to be layered in just the right way, and every seam had to be secure. The clothing needed to be durable enough to withstand the rough life they led, yet flexible enough to allow movement. These garments were built not just for warmth, but for endurance. They had to withstand the elements, just as the humans who wore them did. Now, picture the layers of clothing they might have worn. Perhaps a fur-lined tunic, its thick, soft fur protecting them from the harsh winds that swept through the forest. A pair of leather trousers, worn over the years until they became softened by the wear and tear of constant movement. The feel of the animal hides on your skin is soothing, rough in places but warm, insulating you against the night's chill. The fur of the cloak wraps around you like a thick protective shell, holding the warmth close. The smell of leather, of sweat, of fire. These are the scents of survival, of humanity finding its place in the world. As you lay down to rest, the subtle art of protecting oneself from the cold becomes apparent. The shelter around you, though simple, is a testament to early human ingenuity. It's a low structure, designed to provide just enough cover from the elements. But it's more than just a shelter. It's a statement of survival, a recognition that even in the harshest conditions, humans could adapt, could make a place for themselves in this wild world. Outside, the wind howls, pushing against the shelter, trying to tear it down. The trees sway and creak, their branches whispering with the wind. But inside it's quiet. Inside it's warm. The crackling fire at the centre of the camp is a heartbeat, a constant, a reminder of the delicate balance between life and death. The fire pushes back the darkness, pushing back the cold. The shelter too does its part, holding the warmth of the fire close, blocking the wind from stealing away the heat. As you settle deeper into the shelter, the roughness of the animal hides beneath you offers a sense of reassurance. The bedding is simple, perhaps just a layer of soft grasses or leaves, but it's enough. More than enough. The warmth of the fire and the clothing you wear combine to create a shield, one that protects you from the relentless forces of nature outside. The fire continues to crackle softly, its light a gentle presence in the otherwise dark world. In the earliest days, fire was not just a tool, it was a mystery, a force to be feared and revered. Early humans would have been awed by the fire's power, by its ability to both destroy and create. It was a gift from the gods, a blessing that could easily be taken away. The flickering flames were a symbol of warmth and life, but they were also a reminder of the fragility of existence. As fire became an essential part of survival, early humans began to understand it not just as a force of nature, but as something they could control. They learned how to create fire from scratch, how to stoke it, how to preserve it. In the beginning, fire might have been something they could only capture from the lightning strikes that occasionally lit up the night sky. But as their knowledge grew, so did their mastery over fire. Imagine the first moments of creating fire, using stones to strike sparks, rubbing sticks together, watching in awe as the fire begins to catch. The thrill of the first flame, the warmth as it grows and the comfort as it spreads. The fire's glow illuminates the faces of those around you, and you can feel the collective relief, the shared knowledge that, with this fire, survival becomes possible. But fire wasn't just about individual survival, it was about community. Early humans learned the value of coming together around the fire, of sharing warmth not just physically, but emotionally. The fire became a gathering place, a hearth that drew people together. It was the center of life, the pulse of the community. Imagine the scene. Several people gathered around the fire, their faces lit by its soft glow, their bodies pressed close together for warmth. The air is thick with the scent of smoke, the crackle of the flames the only sound. The community is safe here, in the warmth of the fire. The cold outside, the darkness, the dangers lurking in the wild, these things are kept at bay by the fire. But the fire does more than just provide warmth. It provides light, a light that chases away the shadows and offers clarity in the darkness. In this light, there is no fear, no uncertainty. There is only the present moment, shared by those gathered around the fire. And as the fire continues to burn, so does the knowledge that humanity's survival, through cold, through darkness, through harsh winters, was never a solitary endeavour. It was a shared journey, a collective effort, a dance between human ingenuity and the natural world. Each person played a part in ensuring the warmth of the community, whether through their skills in clothing, fire-making, or building shelter, the fire, always flickering in the heart of the camp, became a symbol not just of survival, but of the unbreakable bond that held them together in the face of adversity. Sting, a soft warmth that fills the shelter. Outside, the world is frozen in the stillness of the night, an icy landscape stretching beyond the shelter's protective walls, where the wind howls and the cold presses in with relentless force. But here, in this small, intimate space, there's a sense of safety. The fire, flickering with energy, is both a barrier and a guide, offering light, warmth, and life in a world that feels so much older and more vast than any of the people gathered around it. In the dim light, the figures around the fire are shadows, their faces softened by the glow. You can almost feel their breath in the air, the rhythm of their shared existence, breathing in sync with the fire's crackle. The shadows stretch across the stone floor, warping in the heat, making the small shelter seem larger, and yet there's a comforting intimacy to it. The walls of the shelter, made of rough branches, animal skins, and thick furs, are warm to the touch, like a constant embrace. They hold the warmth in, keeping out the biting cold that waits just beyond. The shelter itself is more than a structure. It's a symbol of the careful balance early humans struck with the land, an intricate design born out of necessity and forged by the hand of experience. The branches, woven together with precision, form a strong framework, while the hides of animals skillfully stretched and tacked into place provide insulation. The layers of fur serve as an additional buffer, allowing only the faintest trace of the night's chill to creep in. The shelter, while rudimentary, is a testament to early human ingenuity, an adaptation that ensured survival against the harshest elements. Within the shelter, warmth isn't just a luxury. It's a constant companion, an invisible thread that binds the group together. It's the fire that fuels the energy of the night, the clothing that wraps around the body like a protective cocoon, and the shelter that encloses them in a delicate warmth. Together they create a space that offers more than physical protection. It offers a mental reprieve from the vast cold world outside. Fire was the great equalizer. It brought people together, whether for warmth, light, or companionship. Without it, the night would have felt more ominous, more isolating. The fire became the heart of the camp, its warmth spreading not just through the air, but through the very souls of those gathered. At first, the fire may have been something mysterious, a force of nature harnessed only by trial and error. The crackling flames were once wild, uncontrolled, potentially dangerous. But over time, early humans developed a deep understanding of how to manage fire. They learned how to coax it to life, how to make it last, and how to use it to survive. The fire wasn't just a source of light, it was a source of warmth, a tool that allowed early humans to endure the cold, to cook their food, to protect themselves from the animals lurking in the shadows. The process of creating fire was an art, passed down from generation to generation. Early humans learned to create sparks from stones, to rub sticks together to produce the smallest embers that could be nurtured into full flames. Imagine the delicate balance required to keep a fire alive, how each flicker must be coaxed, how each gust of wind is a potential threat to extinguish everything. The fire is alive, constantly shifting, changing with every movement, every breath of air. Now think about how the fire illuminates the space. The shadows on the walls of the shelter flicker and dance, creating a moving tapestry of light. The warmth spreads across your body, sinking into your bones, a reminder of the safety the fire provides. The air is thick with the smell of burning wood, the smoke weaving in and out of the shelter, carried by the subtle currents of air. There's a deep connection to the fire, a primal understanding that without it, the night would be an entirely different, colder place. The shelter becomes an oasis in the cold wilderness, a place where warmth is not just physical, but emotional. The fire's glow is a constant presence, reassuring, comforting, and ever-present. Each night, as the darkness deepens, the fire becomes more than just a tool for survival. It becomes a ritual, a gathering point where people share stories, experiences, and knowledge. They huddle closer, not just for warmth, but for a sense of shared humanity, for the comfort of knowing they are not alone. The shelter's design, simple though it is, reflects the deep understanding early humans had of their environment. The placement of branches, the use of skins to create layers of protection, the careful construction to allow the fire's warmth to fill the space. All of these were learned behaviours. There was no instruction manual, no guidebook on how to build a shelter. But over time, people discovered what worked and what didn't, how to adapt to the elements, and how to create a space that would keep the cold at bay. It was a trial and error process, one that stretched over generations. And in the end, these shelters were more than just temporary refuges. They were statements of survival. Inside, the shelter is filled with the soft sounds of human life. The fire crackles as it burns, sending occasional sparks into the air. The smell of wood smoke lingers in the fabric of your clothing, in your hair, and in the very air you breathe. The scent is earthy, grounding, comforting in its simplicity. The smoke, though thick, is not oppressive. It's the scent of life, of warmth, of the human ability to adapt. The bedding is rough, but effective. Thick animal skins, layered with moss or soft grasses, create a crude but serviceable mattress. The texture of the bedding is comforting in its simplicity. There's no softness like the beds you may know, but in this world, it's enough. The furs offer warmth and comfort, cushioning your body from the hard ground, and the fire, always there, seems to hum in the background, its warmth wrapping around you like a blanket. The shelter, though small, offers everything you need in this moment: protection, warmth, and rest. Every element of this world, the fire, the shelter, the clothing, is intimately tied to the environment. Early humans understood the land in a way that modern people often cannot fathom. They knew the rhythms of the seasons, the behavior of the animals, the patterns of the weather. They learned to read the signs, the first frost, the changing direction of the wind, the sounds of birds migrating, and they adapted. They used everything the earth provided, from the animal skins for clothing to the rocks and wood for the fire. The connection between humans and the land was not just about survival, it was about respect. There was a deep understanding that the land could be both a provider and a destroyer. It could sustain life, but it could also take it away. The constant cycle of life and death was never far from their minds, and it was the fire that acted as the bridge between these two worlds, the wild, untamed world outside, and the small, protected space they created within the shelter. Now, imagine the transition as day shifts into night. The warmth of the sun is gone, replaced by the cool night air that swirls through the trees. The fire becomes the only source of light, casting long shadows that stretch across the landscape. The wind picks up, causing the trees to sway, their branches creaking in the night. The cold presses in, but the shelter and the fire within offer protection. The fur of your cloak keeps you warm, The fire crackles, and the night outside feels like it belongs to another world. As you settle into the shelter, the sounds of the forest fade into the background, replaced by the soft murmur of conversation. The fire continues to burn, its light flickering across the faces of those gathered around it. The warmth of the fire is shared, not just through the physical heat it provides, but through the stories and memories that are exchanged. Each person shares their experiences, what they've hunted, what they've seen, what they've learned from the land. These stories become the currency of survival, passed down from one generation to the next, woven into the fabric of the community. The act of sharing warmth is more than just a physical exchange, it's a social ritual. Humans are not solitary creatures, they thrive in community. The fire, the clothing, the shelter, they're all part of a larger network of relationships that bind people together. It's a reminder that survival isn't just about the individual, it's about the collective. The fire continues to crackle, and in the flickering light, the faces around you seem to glow with a soft intensity. The warmth of the fire spreads, touching everyone in the shelter, bringing them closer together. The night outside feels distant now, almost irrelevant. Inside there's warmth, there's safety, there's community. And as you drift off to sleep, the fire burns low, but it's always there, a constant companion, a symbol of survival, of warmth, of life. As the night deepens, the fire burns lower, its crackling sound growing softer, more distant. But the warmth still holds, the embers glowing like soft pulsating stars. Outside, the world is cold, but here, inside the shelter, there is a circle of warmth. The people gathered around the fire are more than just survivors. They're a part of a lineage that stretches back to the very dawn of humanity. Their lives are intertwined with the fire, the clothing, and the shelter. These simple tools, these essential elements of survival, have allowed humanity to persist in a world that has always been indifferent to their survival. As you listen to the crackling of the fire, you realize that it is more than just a source of warmth. It is a symbol of human ingenuity, of our ability to adapt, to learn, and to survive. The fire is both a gift and a challenge, a constant reminder of the delicate balance between life and death, warmth and cold, light and darkness. And so, as the fire burns low and the night stretches on, the stories shared around it become more than just memories. They become the foundation of human existence. They are the threads that connect the past to the present to the future. The fire continues to burn, and in its warmth, there is life. The fire crackles and pops, sending a warm glow across the shelter as you lie there, your senses tuned to the subtle dance of light and shadow. Outside, the chill of the night deepens, the air thickening with frost, but here, within the protective walls of your shelter, you feel insulated not only from the cold, but from the harshness of the world itself. The fire, ever present, provides the illusion of permanence, its warmth pushing back the night as it burns brighter, its crackling a reminder of life's fragility and resilience. You can hear the soft rustle of the fire's dying embers, the wind howling outside like some ancient force trying to break through. But it never succeeds. Not here, not now. The shelter is simple yet effective. The walls, formed from a mix of animal hides and sturdy branches, hold together, creating an environment that's far warmer than the world outside. The rough texture of the hides beneath your fingertips gives a sense of the rawness of life in this time. Nothing is polished, nothing is refined. Everything, from the floor made of thick layers of leaves and grass to the crude bedding of animal pelts, is a direct product of necessity, shaped by the very survival of the humans who made it. Yet, this simplicity carries a beauty all its own, an unspoken elegance that arises from knowing how to live with the land, how to make the most of what it provides. The fire isn't just the focal point of this shelter, it is the very center of life. Without it, survival in these harsh conditions would be nearly impossible. Fire is the life force, the one thing that could protect them against the unyielding cold, the predators that roam under the cover of night, and the darkness that so often feels like it stretches infinitely. Every flicker of flame is a small victory, a defiance against the natural forces that seek to overpower human existence. As you sit there, watching the fire, its heat radiates against your skin, and for a moment, you forget about the world outside. The fire creates a sanctuary, both physical and mental, drawing everyone together in its warm embrace. The comforting glow illuminates the faces of those gathered, each person wrapped in their own furs, their bodies held close to the fire for warmth. The fire's role goes beyond that of mere warmth. It is also a part of ritual, of connection. In early human society, fire would have played a significant role in daily life, from cooking food to providing light during long nights, to offering warmth and comfort to those gathered around it. It is said that in many cultures fire was considered sacred, an elemental force, a gift from the gods, and in many ways it was. Without fire, survival would have been impossible. The hearth was not just a source of light, it was the centre of the home, the symbol of life itself. But fire also brought people together. As you sit by the fire, you are reminded of the importance of community. The shelter, the warmth, the shared meals and stories. These were the things that bound people together. Without the fire, there would be nothing but darkness and cold. And it is in the light of the fire that connections are made, that humanity finds its footing in the vast, indifferent world around it. The rituals around the fire were as much about survival as they were about bonding, about sharing experiences and learning from one another. The sounds of the fire are steady, comforting, a rhythm that resonates with your very core. It is in the crackle of the logs, the soft hiss of the embers, that you feel connected to the past, to the generations that came before you, and to those who will come after. Each time you add another log to the fire, you participate in an ancient ritual, a dance of survival that has been carried out for millennia. The fire is not just a tool, it is a part of you, a part of humanity's enduring struggle against the elements. But as the fire burns down and the night grows deeper, you realize that warmth in this world is not only about the fire, it's also about the relationships that form around it, the people you sit with, the shared moments of quiet, the knowledge that you are not alone in this struggle. The fire may be the source of warmth, but it is the people, the community, that sustain the feeling of safety. In these moments, surrounded by the glow of the fire, you come to understand that warmth is not just something physical, it is also emotional. It is the comfort of knowing that, no matter how cold the world may be, there are others to share in the struggle, others to rely on when the cold presses in. The night deepens and the fire continues to burn low, its warmth slowly fading, but the shelter remains. It holds firm, a bastion against the cold, a symbol of survival. As the wind howls outside and the shadows stretch across the shelter, you find comfort in the constant flicker of the fire, the steady presence of those around you, and the knowledge that you are not alone. This shared warmth, the fire, the shelter, the clothing, is the very heart of human existence. It is the bond that ties us to the earth, to each other, and to the survival of our species. The fire burns low, but it is never truly extinguished. It will always be there, waiting to light the way through the darkness, to guide humanity forward through the cold and the wild into the warmth of tomorrow. The fire continues to burn, though its warmth is now a gentle glow, crackling softly in the night. The shadows of the shelter stretch across the walls, growing longer as the fire diminishes, the light of the flame retreating in quiet surrender. Outside, the cold wind howls with an eerie insistence, pushing against the structure of the shelter, the branches creaking under its pressure. Yet inside, despite the growing chill, there remains a sense of comfort. This small, insulated world is enough to shield you from the cold that presses on all sides. This shelter, though simple in design, has become a refuge, a place of both physical protection and mental solace. The walls, made of carefully woven branches and animal hides, are more than just barriers against the elements. They are symbols of ingenuity, a direct response to the world's harshness. They were crafted with an intimate knowledge of the land, an understanding passed down through generations, refined and tested over time. Inside the shelter, it is warm enough to rest. The fire, though it flickers weakly now, still exudes a steady heat that clings to the air, mingling with the scent of burning wood and animal fur. The sound of the flames crackle is soothing, a rhythm that mirrors your own breathing. The leather of your clothing, the fur-lined tunic and boots offers protection, but it is the shared warmth of the fire and the shelter that keeps you grounded. You can almost hear the stories being told by the people around you, the old songs, the tales of hunts, the legends passed from one generation to the next. Outside, the forest is still, silent but alive with the distant calls of nocturnal creatures, the rustle of small animals seeking shelter from the wind. The world beyond is a place of danger and uncertainty, yet here, in this moment, there is peace. The fire may flicker and wane, but it is never truly extinguished. Its light will return each time it fades. Its warmth will rise again, bringing life to this small space in the darkness. The success of early humans in creating warmth during the coldest nights wasn't just a matter of fire. It was the materials they used and their understanding of those materials. The animal hides, for example, provided an unparalleled layer of insulation, while also offering a flexible, wearable form of protection. As you sit back against the rough bedding of animal pelts, you can feel the weight of the fur, the way it conforms to your body's shape, its warmth clinging to you like a second skin. The fur acts as an insulator, trapping heat close to your body, while the tough outer hide acts as a shield against the elements. These materials didn't come from nowhere. They were the product of careful knowledge and resourcefulness. Early humans would have learned how to skin animals, remove the meat, and then stretch and cure the hide to make it pliable enough for use. Over time, the processes became more refined, allowing them to create layers of insulation that could stand against even the coldest winds. The hides were used not only for clothing, but also for bedding, shelter walls, and coverings for their tools and possessions. In this way, the animal's body, from the fur to the leather, became part of a system that allowed humans to survive. The scent of animal fur and leather is thick in the air, adding another layer to the sensory experience of survival. The smell is not unpleasant, but earthy, grounding. The fur itself feels soft and comforting against your skin, its rougher texture only noticeable when you adjust your position. Each movement is a reminder that you are wrapped in the gifts of nature, that the materials that sustain you are the very same that allow you to feel warmth, protection, and comfort. As the fire crackles and sputters, you sink deeper into the bedding. The rough edges of the animal pelts brush against your skin, their warmth holding you close. The fire burns low, casting long shadows against the walls of the shelter, yet its warmth remains, a constant, familiar companion. The night outside is cold and silent, but inside there is a steady, rhythmic pulse. The crackling of the fire is soft, almost hypnotic. It moves in time with the slow rise and fall of your breath, the steady beat of your heart. The flames flicker and dance, casting their orange light on the faces of those gathered around the fire. There is no need for words, just the quiet understanding that the warmth of the fire, the shelter, and the companionship of others are enough to sustain you through the long night. In the stillness, the fire takes on a life of its own. The flames dance higher, sending up occasional sparks that fade into the blackness of the night. Each shift of the fire is a signal, a subtle reminder that time is moving, that the hours of the night are passing. The warmth spreads outward, touching the walls, the bedding, the clothing. The fire is not just a source of light, it is life, it is warmth, it is the heartbeat of the shelter. Outside, the world is wild and untamed. The wind howls, the trees groan under its pressure, and the cold presses in from every side. But here, inside the shelter, there is safety. The fire's warmth, the thick hides of animal fur, and the sturdy walls of the shelter create a cocoon that shields you from the harsh world beyond. As you settle further into the bedding, the weight of the pelts presses against you, their warmth filling the space around you. The fire is central to the rhythms of life in this world. It is there from the moment the first spark is struck, and it remains present as the embers fade into the morning light. The fire is a constant, an unyielding force that accompanies you from one day to the next. It is the first thing that greets you in the morning, when the warmth from the embers is still fresh, and it is the last thing you see as the night falls, offering its protection from the dark. In the early days, the fire would have been the heart of every campsite, every shelter. It would have provided the heat necessary to cook food, to warm hands and feet, to light the way through the darkness. But more than that, it would have provided a sense of community, a place where people could gather and share stories, laughter, and comfort. The fire was not just a tool, it was the center of life. Picture the scene now. You're gathered around the fire with your companions, the warmth of the flames spreading through the group, linking you all together. The crackling of the fire fills the silence, a steady, comforting sound that drowns out the harsh winds outside. The faces around you are illuminated by the flickering light, their features softened by the glow. Each person is wrapped in layers of fur, the warmth of the fire seeping into their clothing, into their bones. There's no need for words. Everything is understood in the shared presence of the fire. Winter is a time of immense challenge. The group. The cold presses in relentlessly, light, and the need for warmth becomes a matter of life and death. Early humans, though resilient, were at the mercy of the elements. The fire, though essential, could only do so much. The cold, the snow, and the winds could all seep through the cracks of the shelter, creeping in to chill the body and the soul. But early humans learned to adapt. They learned to find shelter in the right places, to build walls strong enough to withstand the worst of the cold, and to create clothing that could trap warmth against the body. These innovations weren't sudden. They came gradually, as people learned from their mistakes, from the failures and successes of previous generations. The process was a slow accumulation of knowledge, passed down through the years, one discovery after another. Imagine the first moments of innovation, when the first humans learned to craft a shelter that could provide more warmth, or when they first discovered that animal pelts could be used not just for clothing, but for bedding, insulation, and shelter. These moments weren't dramatic. They were quiet, gradual steps, born out of necessity, out of a desire to survive. But they were revolutionary, shaping the future of human existence in ways that would echo through the centuries. Over time, early humans mastered the art of fire. They learned not just how to create it, but how to preserve it, how to feed it and keep it alive for the long hours of the night. The fire became a symbol of human ingenuity, a representation of the way humans had learned to harness nature's forces to their advantage. Without fire, survival would have been nearly impossible, and yet it was the mastery of fire that allowed early humans to thrive. The fire was more than just a practical tool. It was a symbol of progress, of humanity's ability to adapt, innovate, and survive. It represented the transition from the raw forces of nature to the mastery of those forces. It allowed early humans to cook food, to stay warm, to protect themselves from predators. It provided the foundation for socialization, for community, for the sharing of stories, for the passing down of knowledge. The legacy of fire is written in every human innovation that followed. It is found in the tools we use, the homes we build, and the warmth we take for granted. And yet, it all began here, in these primitive shelters, around these flickering flames, in a world where survival required not just strength, but ingenuity. As the fire continues to burn, the warmth it provides spreads through the shelter, filling the air with a steady, reassuring heat. The shelter is a safe haven, a place that feels like a world unto itself, separate from the harshness of the wilderness outside. The fire's glow flickers across the walls, casting dancing shadows that stretch and sway like living creatures. You're acutely aware of the simplicity of your surroundings, the walls, formed from interwoven branches, the thick furs that cover the ground and drape over your body. But there's a profound comfort in this simplicity. Every element has a purpose, and every choice made in constructing this small shelter was a response to the world's relentless challenges. The night is quiet now, save for the occasional sound of the fire crackling and the wind howling outside. The shadows on the walls seem to stretch infinitely as the fire burns low, casting long, deep shadows that reach across the shelter, adding an eerie sense of distance to the otherwise intimate space. Yet, inside, the warmth of the fire holds everything together, the glow offering not just light, but a reminder of how fragile life in this world is, how necessary each moment of warmth becomes in the face of a relentless environment. Imagine now the daily rituals that centered around this warmth, the gathering of firewood, the careful tending of embers, and the use of fire to craft not just the shelter, but the tools of survival. These tools were not mere implements. They were extensions of the people who made them, crafted from the raw materials of nature, shaped by human hands and driven by the need to survive. The fire's role in survival went far beyond just keeping the cold at bay. It was also a crucial part of crafting tools, which allowed early humans to hunt, build, and protect themselves more effectively. These tools were simple at first: stones chipped into sharp edges, sticks used as spears or digging tools. But over time, as the fire allowed for the manipulation of other materials, these tools became more complex. Picture the first stone being heated in the fire, softened by the heat, and then shaped into something new. The rhythmic sound of hammering against stone echoes in your mind as early humans fashioned tools, their hands strong and steady, shaping the world around them. With each strike of stone on stone, they learned the art of flint knapping, the careful, controlled strikes that would create sharp edges perfect for cutting or scraping. The fire, in this sense, was a forge, a place where raw materials were transformed into something more useful, more practical. In the early days, tools were often used for hunting or processing food. The shape of a spearhead, the edge of an axe, these things were crucial for survival. But the fire also played a role in the crafting of clothing, of shelter, and even of art. Imagine a moment in time when the first early humans discovered that fire could be used to harden wooden tools, or to create a pottery vessel to hold water or food. This realization would have been profound, a turning point that allowed for a new level of control over the environment. The fire's warmth played an essential role in shaping these new tools. The early humans would have been constantly aware of the importance of their surroundings. The fire was both a tool and a necessity. They understood that the fire was not just a source of warmth, but also an instrument of transformation. Each tool that was crafted by the fire was a step forward in human development, an evolution from the primitive to the more refined. As early humans grew in their understanding of the land and their resources, they began to innovate not just with tools, but with clothing. The initial instinct to cover the body with animal skins and furs was a natural one, but as time passed, humans learned to refine this clothing, to make it not only functional, but adaptable to changing conditions. Imagine the process of making clothing. First, the animal would be skinned, the fur carefully removed and preserved. The hide was treated, stretched and prepared for use, and then sewn together using sinew or tough plant fibers. Over time, early humans learned to shape these hides into garments that could protect them from the cold, but also provide mobility. There were no tailors or designers, just people adapting the land's materials to meet their needs. The process was simple but effective. Now picture yourself wearing these early garments. The roughness of the hides against your skin, the way the fur clings to your body, insulating you from the cold. It's not luxurious or soft in the way modern clothing might be, but it's effective, and in its own way, it's beautiful. The scent of animal fur lingers in the air, a reminder of the land and the animals that gave their lives for survival. The warmth that these garments provide is not just physical, it is a connection to the world around you, to the cycle of life and death that sustains your existence. These garments, while designed for warmth, were also a symbol of human ingenuity and adaptation. Early humans understood that they needed more than just fire to survive the cold nights. They needed clothing that could insulate and protect. The clothing became a vital tool, not just in keeping warm, but in ensuring the survival of the tribe. The thicker the hides, the warmer the clothing, and the better the protection from the elements. The fire, clothing, and shelter came together in a delicate balance, creating a system of survival that allowed early humans to thrive in the harshest of environments. Each element played its part. Fire provided warmth, clothing kept that warmth close to the body, and shelter protected the community from the wind, the rain, and the cold that would otherwise seep in. But it wasn't just about the physical elements. It was also about the community that formed around these things. Imagine the first humans gathered around a fire, the heat of the flames offering a sense of safety. But they weren't alone. They were part of a group, a community that understood the value of sharing warmth. The warmth wasn't just a physical sensation, it was a social bond. It was in the sharing of stories, in the silent gestures of passing the firewood, in the quiet moments of companionship. The fire brought people together. It was not just a practical tool, but a social one. As the fire flickered, casting its light on the faces around it, the shared experience of warmth and survival created a bond that transcended individual efforts. Each person brought something to the fire, whether it was fuel, food, or knowledge. The warmth of the fire was an invisible thread that tied the group together, creating a sense of unity and purpose. The cold, though ever present, became less threatening in the presence of the fire. Early humans, facing a world filled with dangers, wild animals, storms, and the isolation that comes with long nights, found comfort not just in the warmth of the fire, but in the ability to endure the cold together. There was a deep understanding that survival was not just about individual strength, but about collective effort. The shelter was the framework for this survival, the fire, the energy that powered it, and the clothing, the armour that made it possible to endure the elements. Think about the days when the fire was first learned, when it was new, perhaps even magical. The ability to create and control fire was one of the most profound discoveries in human history, and it became more than just a tool. It became a symbol of human resilience. Over time, humans learned how to harness fire not just to stay warm, but to cook food, to protect themselves from predators, and to craft tools. It was a discovery that transformed human existence, turning the once cold and hostile world into one that could be tamed, even if just for a moment. As humans grew more adept at creating and controlling fire, they began to understand its deeper significance. It wasn't just a source of warmth, it was a symbol of life itself, of the energy that made existence possible. The fire became a centre of ritual and community, a place where not just warmth, but shared experiences and traditions were passed down. Imagine the rituals that would have formed around the fire, the first songs sung by the warmth of the flames, the first dances performed under its glow. The fire was both a literal and spiritual centre of the community. It was the source of light, the beacon that guided people through the darkness, both physical and metaphorical. The rituals, though simple, would have been deeply meaningful. Each spark, each flicker of the flame, a reminder of life, survival, and the continuity of the tribe. The crackling of the fire would become the rhythm of life, a constant reminder of how far humanity had come in its struggle against the cold. As the fire burns low, the sense of connection, of shared warmth, grows even more profound. Each person, wrapped in their fur garments, surrounded by the shelter they've crafted together, feels the quiet power of the fire. The shadows stretch, and for a moment, everything feels eternal. The warmth, the shelter, the people around you. The fire is the heartbeat of this world, and as long as it burns, so too will humanity's ability to survive. Over time, as humanity adapted to the environment, the methods of survival evolved. The shelter grew more sophisticated and the clothing more refined, but the fire remained at the heart of it all. It was the first tool, the constant presence, the thing that made everything else possible. Fire was not just about surviving the cold, it was about thriving in a world that demanded resilience, innovation, and cooperation. The legacy of fire is woven into the fabric of human history. It is a story of survival, of adaptation, and of the quiet strength that has carried humanity through the harshest times. The fire, like the clothing and the shelter, is a testament to the ingenuity of early humans, to their ability to shape the world around them and turn it into a place where life could not just exist, but flourish. The embers glow softly in the shelter, the warmth of the fire a constant companion as the night stretches on. The shelter is still, the fire's crackle now faint, but the light it casts continues to dance across the walls. The shadows stretch and contract, moving in time with the shifting of the fire, creating a fluid, hypnotic rhythm that lulls you into a quiet state of reflection. The fire, even as it begins to fade, is a symbol of endurance. It is the pulse of this small world. Without it, there would be only darkness, only cold. But here, in the safety of the shelter, the warmth remains a steady companion. Outside, the world feels distant, almost irrelevant. The wind howls through the trees, but the shelter is solid, anchored in the earth by the collective effort of those who have built it. Each piece, from the thick hides that form the walls to the animal pelts that line the floor, has been placed with purpose, with the knowledge that this structure, though simple, is their sanctuary from the elements. The scent of the fire continues to linger in the air, mingling with the earthy smell of the bedding. The smell is rich, grounding, comforting in its own way, a reminder of everything that has been sacrificed and created in order to survive. The leather of your garment, still warm from the fire, clings to your skin, its rough texture offering a sense of security. The fur, though soft, carries the scent of the wild, of the animals that gave their lives to provide this warmth, this protection. Each layer is a tribute to survival, to the ingenuity of those who understood how to use the land, the animals, the fire to stay alive. As the hours pass, the stillness of the shelter settles in. The fire's warmth slowly begins to fade, but it doesn't matter. The shelter itself, constructed from the earth and the forest, holds the warmth like a memory. The layers of animal pelts, the thick walls of hides, and the careful arrangement of branches ensure that even without the fire, the cold cannot reach you here. In these moments, the shelter is more than just a refuge. It's a home. It is a space created not just for survival, but for comfort, for connection. In the harshness of the wilderness, humans learn to build not only to protect themselves from the cold, but to make their lives more bearable. The shelter was a place to rest, to find solace, and to reconnect with others. It was a space where warmth was shared, not just physically, but emotionally. A small pocket of safety in a world that offered little. The intimacy of the shelter is palpable. The way the fire's soft glow touches the walls, the way the shadows seem to fold around the people gathered here. There's no distance, no sense of isolation. Everyone is within arm's reach, surrounded by the warmth of the fire and the comforting weight of their furs. The wind may be cold and howling outside, but inside it feels like the world has stopped for a moment. The fire is their heartbeat, the shelter their sanctuary. It's not just about survival. The warmth provided by the fire, the shelter, and the clothing creates something more. It creates community. The need to stay warm is a shared one. Every person in the shelter feels it, and so, in a quiet way, the survival of one becomes the survival of all. As you sit there, close to the fire, you can feel the unspoken bond between everyone. There are no words needed, just the shared warmth, the shared understanding that the fire is keeping them alive, that the shelter is protecting them. They are, in this moment, all equal in their dependence on the fire, on the clothing, on the shelter. Around the fire, there are no strangers. Even if there are differences in age or experience, the fire levels them all. The warmth it provides is a reminder that everyone here has a role to play, that everyone is part of this communal effort to survive the night. It's in the quiet moments, when the fire is burning low and the shadows stretch long, that these unspoken connections become clear. The warmth doesn't just keep the cold at bay, it creates a space for conversation, for laughter, for stories that connect generations. The fire becomes a catalyst for human interaction. In the darkness of the night, as the wind howls outside, the fire's glow becomes the only light in the world. The crackling of the flames is the only sound, and in its warmth, people come together. It's in these moments that traditions are born, rituals around the fire, songs sung to pass the time, stories shared to teach lessons, to keep the past alive. Imagine the stories told by the elders, tales of hunts, of journeys across the land, of encounters with wild animals, of victories and losses. These stories are passed down not just as entertainment, but as essential knowledge. They are the stories of survival, of how to live in harmony with the land, how to endure the cold, how to make it through the long, harsh nights. Each story is a lesson in resilience, in strength, in the quiet power of human determination. Fire, too, plays an important role in the preservation of food, ensuring that early humans could sustain themselves through the long winters. The fire provided not just warmth, but a way to cook, to prepare food in ways that made it easier to eat and digest. Early humans would have learned to cook their food over the fire, to dry and preserve meat by hanging it above the flames. The ability to cook food gave them an edge, making certain foods more palatable, allowing them to break down tougher cuts of meat and providing a sense of comfort in the form of a hot meal. Imagine the scent of meat roasting over the fire, the smell of the fat dripping into the flames, creating that rich, smoky aroma. The fire's warmth spreads through the shelter, but the food provides a different kind of comfort, a deep, satisfying warmth that fills the belly and nourishes the body. The crackle of the fire is punctuated by the hiss of cooking meat, the sound of life being sustained by the very force that has kept the cold at bay. The fire becomes both a tool of survival and a source of pleasure, transforming the act of eating from a mere necessity to a moment of shared joy. The food prepared over the fire is more than just sustenance. It is a communal experience. The food is shared, passed around, and enjoyed by all. The act of eating together around the fire becomes a bonding ritual. The fire allows for this. Its warmth, its glow, its crackling sound all become part of the experience. Eating together by the fire is more than just about food. It's about connection, about the deep understanding that survival is a collective effort. The shelter itself is more than just a physical structure. Over time, as humans adapted to their environment, the shelter evolved from a simple, temporary refuge into something more permanent, something that reflected the ingenuity of the people who built it. The walls, constructed from sturdy branches and thick animal skins, became an expression of human resourcefulness. Each piece, carefully chosen and placed, ensured that the shelter would withstand the cold winds and the fierce storms that would have been common in the winter months. As time passed, early humans learned to improve their shelters. They discovered that the earth itself could be used for insulation, digging down into the earth to create a floor that would trap heat. The more complex shelters would have had multiple layers, thick walls, an insulated roof, and an entrance designed to block out the wind. Over time, the design of the shelter would have been refined, tested by the seasons, and adapted to meet the needs of the people who relied on it for survival. In the warmth of the shelter, life feels full, whole. The cracks in the walls are insignificant. The gaps in the roof are nothing more than small imperfections in the face of the safety it provides. The shelter is both a sanctuary and a tool, built by the people who rely on it for comfort, warmth, and security. It is a space where human creativity is expressed, where the act of survival becomes an art. The shelter, like the fire and the clothing, is an extension of humanity's need to adapt, to create, and to thrive in a world that is sometimes unforgiving, but always worth fighting for. Yet, outside the shelter, the cold remains. It is a constant presence, an ever-looming force that pushes against the walls, seeking entry, seeking to reclaim the space. The wind howls, bending the trees, sending leaves and branches scattering across the ground. The night feels endless, as if time itself slows when the world is immersed in darkness and cold. This shelter is a small island in an otherwise indifferent world, a world where the cold is king, where the night holds sway, and where the creatures of the wild roam without concern for human survival. But inside, it is different. The fire's glow offers protection, warmth, and light. The walls of the shelter hold firm, blocking out the wind and the cold. The furs wrapped around the body hold the warmth close, their thickness a shield against the chill. The food, the fire, the shelter, all of these things combine to create a space where survival is not just possible but comfortable, where the cold becomes something distant, something outside that cannot touch you. The fire, now reduced to embers, still casts a soft, comforting warmth that wraps around the shelter. The thick walls, once trembling in the face of the wind's aggression, now stand resilient, offering a sense of peace amidst the ongoing battle between the elements and the humans who seek shelter from them. The night outside stretches long, but inside, in this small pocket of warmth, the world feels almost serene, as though it exists outside of time itself. You lie there, nestled within the animal furs that provide the warmth of 1,000 creatures who once roamed the earth. The fur is soft beneath you, like a second skin, insulating your body from the chill that continues to press against the shelter's walls. Each piece of fur, carefully chosen, carefully preserved, is a testament to the early humans' resourcefulness. The fire's faint glow continues to light the walls, casting flickering shadows that make the shelter feel alive, as though the walls themselves are breathing in rhythm with your own heartbeat. The cold wind howls outside, a constant reminder of the dangerous forces that lurk beyond your small, insulated world. It's not just the cold that threatens, but the animals that wander through the wilderness, the predators that prowl in search of food. But here, inside the shelter, with the warmth of the fire and the security of the thick walls, you are safe. In the quiet moments, you realize that the world beyond the fire's glow is full of hidden dangers, dangers that are unseen but always present. The wilderness is alive, and though it may seem peaceful in its stillness, there is a constant threat that comes with living in such an unforgiving environment. The wolves that howl in the distance are not just creatures of legend. They are real, prowling the forest in search of food. The rustle of the leaves outside the shelter could very well be the soft footfall of a wild animal, slipping through the trees, drawn by the scent of the humans inside. Yet, despite the omnipresent threat, you feel no fear. The shelter, with its thick walls and layers of fur, provides the protection you need. The fire offers warmth, not just to your body but to your spirit, reassuring you that, for now, you are safe. The fire is more than just a source of heat. It's a promise of safety, a barrier between you and the wildness of the world outside. The warmth of the fire, however, is fleeting. It flickers, ebbing and flowing like the pulse of life itself. Even as you lie there, wrapped in warmth, you know that the fire will eventually fade, that the embers will turn cold and lifeless. The fire is a reminder of the impermanence of all things, the fleeting nature of warmth, of life, of safety. But it is also a symbol of humanity's resilience, of our ability to create warmth, even in the harshest of environments. The fire is never truly extinguished. It may fade, but it always returns, and it will return again to light the way through the darkness. As the fire burns low, you reflect on how far humans have come in their ability to manipulate their environment. In the beginning, the mastery of fire was nothing more than a means of survival, a way to stave off the cold and protect oneself from the dangers lurking in the dark. But over time, fire became a tool for creation. It was used not just for warmth, but for cooking food, for crafting tools, for building shelters. Think about the first fire, when early humans discovered the power of heat and flame. They would have been awed, perhaps even fearful, of the fire's raw power, the way it consumed everything in its path. But over time, they would have learned to control it, to tame it, to use it as a tool to shape their world. The fire was no longer just a force of nature. It was an extension of humanity's will. The evolution of fire use mirrors the evolution of human ingenuity itself. The first fire was a discovery, an accident perhaps, or a stroke of luck, but it was the beginning of something profound. As fire became more than just a necessity for survival, it became a cornerstone of human culture, of the human experience. The warmth it provided was essential, but it was the many ways in which it could be used, shaping tools, cooking food, lighting the way, that define the path forward. The fire, though essential, could not protect humans entirely from the cold. As the nights grew colder, as the winter months drew nearer, early humans had to find ways to keep their bodies insulated from the freezing air. Clothing, at first rudimentary and functional, became an essential part of survival. Imagine the early days of clothing, rough skins draped over the shoulders, held in place by primitive fastenings. The hides of animals, though thick, were heavy and difficult to wear. But with each generation, clothing became more refined. The hides were softened and treated, made more pliable. Clothing was no longer just a shield against the cold. It was a symbol of the human ability to adapt. The fur-lined garments, though rough by modern standards, were the first steps toward true insulation. Early humans would have layered furs, trapping air between them to create a natural barrier against the cold. The fur, dense and insulating, would have been a vital component of survival during the long, dark winters. Imagine wearing these garments, each layer adding a small measure of warmth, each piece of fur a safeguard against the freezing wind. These clothes were crafted with care. The leather of the hides was scraped clean and stretched, made more pliable, while the fur was trimmed and shaped to fit the body. The clothing was a testament to human creativity, an expression of our ability to use the land to our advantage. The hides, the furs, and the sinew used for stitching were all taken from the animals that roamed the land. These garments became more than just tools for warmth. They became a reflection of the deep connection between early humans and the world around them. As you sit by the fire wrapped in your fur garments, you realize that warmth, though essential for survival, is also a ritual. The fire's warmth, the clothing that protects you, the shelter that surrounds you. All of these elements are tied together in a delicate dance of survival. They are not just tools, they are symbols of humanity's ability to adapt, to innovate, to create a life in an otherwise hostile world. Think about the rituals that would have formed around these elements. Early humans would have gathered around the fire each night, huddling close for warmth, sharing stories, and passing down knowledge. The fire wasn't just a source of heat, it was a gathering point, a place of community. The clothing, though practical, would have become part of these rituals. As each piece was carefully crafted and worn, it became a part of the culture, a part of the story of survival. The fire and the clothing were intertwined. The warmth they provided was more than just physical. It was emotional, psychological. The fire was the center of the community, its warmth, a constant presence in the lives of those who depended on it. The clothing too played a role in this. It was not just a shield against the cold, it was a symbol of the tribe's collective effort to survive. The fire and the clothing were both physical manifestations of the community's resilience, their ability to work together to endure the harshest of conditions. The fire, while essential, was not always easy to maintain. Early humans had to learn how to start it, how to keep it burning, and how to use it effectively. The fire could be extinguished by wind, by rain, by neglect. It had to be tended to, stoked and fed with wood, the embers carefully nurtured to keep them alive. The shelter, too, required constant attention. The wind could easily tear down a poorly constructed shelter, and the cold could seep in through any cracks or gaps in the walls. Early humans had to learn how to build their shelters with care, using the materials available to them to create a structure that would protect them from the cold and the elements. The fire and the shelter were both part of a larger system of survival, a system that required constant effort and attention. But as time passed, humans became more adept at building these shelters, more skilled at tending the fire, and more creative in their use of materials. The fire became more than just a tool. It became a way of life. The shelter became more than just a refuge. It became a home. The clothing, once simple and functional, became a symbol of humanity's resilience and creativity. The more you think about it, the more you realize how transformative fire was for early humans. It was not just a tool for warmth, it was the key to survival, the foundation upon which civilization itself was built. Without fire, early humans would have been at the mercy of the elements. Without fire, they would have had no way to cook their food, no way to protect themselves from predators, no way to create the tools that allowed them to thrive. Imagine the first moments when fire was discovered. The excitement, the fear, the awe. It must have been nothing short of magical. The ability to control fire would have been a profound revelation, one that forever changed the course of human history. Over time, fire became an extension of human will. It was no longer just a force of nature, it was a tool, a means of controlling the environment. The mastery of fire was one of the first great accomplishments of humanity, and it set the stage for the countless innovations that would follow. As the fire burns low, its crackling sound softens, the last embers fading into the quiet dark. The warmth that once spread so freely through the shelter begins to retreat, but even as it fades, there's a lingering comfort in its afterglow. The shelter, with its thick walls of animal hides and fur, holds the remnants of that warmth, like a soft embrace around you. Outside, the wind howls softly in the distance, but it feels far away now, a reminder of the wildness just beyond the walls. Here, in the stillness of the shelter, the world feels safe, almost timeless. The fire's light has all but disappeared, but you can still feel its presence in the warmth that clings to the air, in the quiet rhythm of your breath. The shadows that stretched across the walls now rest, as if they too have settled in for the night, becoming part of the peaceful stillness. The air is cool, but it is not cold, not with the warmth of the fire still in the shelter, not with the layers of fur wrapping around you, the comforting embrace of the animal pelts cradling your body. You adjust your position, curling deeper into the bedding, the softness of the fur gently pressing against you. It feels as though the very fabric of the shelter, the warmth of the furs, and the echo of the fire's warmth are all part of one continuous soothing rhythm that surrounds you. In this quiet, there is no need to rush. There is no urgency in the air, just a steady, calm presence. The shelter, the warmth, the memories of the day, all of these elements seem to fade into the background, leaving only the stillness, only the rhythm of your own breathing. The shelter has been a refuge, and it has served its purpose. It has protected you from the world outside, and now, as the fire's embers dim, you feel a deep, quiet peace settling in. The warmth has moved from the fire into the quiet corners of your body, and you can almost feel the earth itself holding you, cradling you through the night. The air is now still, save for the faint, comforting hum of the wind outside. The shelter feels as though it has become part of you. Each creak of the branches, each rustle of the fur is no longer just sound. It's part of the deep rhythm of life here, a lullaby sung by the world around you. The shelter seems to breathe in time with you, exhaling softly with the passing of the hours. The weight of the night settles gently over everything. The world beyond the shelter, the wild, the cold, the unknown, is distant now, softened by the quiet warmth surrounding you. The wind outside no longer feels like a threat, but a distant whisper. It's as if the night has wrapped itself around you like a blanket, pressing gently against your skin, urging you into rest. You breathe deeply, the warmth of the fur and the memory of the fire still comforting you. The shelter holds you in its embrace, the animal pelt soft against your skin, the quiet rhythm of the night soothing you, pulling you deeper into the stillness. There is no rush here, no urgency. The night is long, and the hours stretch out like a slow, unbroken thread. Every breath you take is deeper now, more relaxed, as the world outside seems to grow quieter still. The shadows on the walls seem to soften, the space around you becoming more peaceful, more expansive with each passing moment. The air, the warmth, the very presence of the shelter seem to merge, becoming one seamless, gentle pulse that lulls you into a deeper state of comfort. The fire is now nothing but a memory, a quiet, glowing ember in your mind. But the warmth it provided lingers, holding you in place, safe, secure, and surrounded by the simple beauty of what you've built. It's a feeling of being at peace with the world, a moment where everything comes together in perfect harmony. The shelter, the clothing, the fire, each element now feels like a part of you, a soft, unspoken rhythm that will continue even after the fire's light has faded. The world outside is quiet now. The wind has settled into a distant murmur, as if even nature itself has paused to rest. The sounds of the forest, the soft rustling of leaves, the distant call of an animal have all faded into a quiet hum, a lullaby of sorts, as the night stretches on. You can feel the shelter around you, solid and reassuring, cradling you into a peaceful sleep. There is nothing you need to do, nothing to fear, nothing to hold on to. All that remains is the soft embrace of the night, the warmth of the fire still lingering in your skin, and the steady rhythm of your breath. The weight of the day, the moments of survival, the shared warmth. Everything begins to blend into the soft quiet of sleep. The world beyond the shelter drifts farther away, its cold and its wildness growing more distant with every passing second. The warmth wraps around you, not just from the furs, not just from the memories of fire, but from the deep sense of safety that fills this space. As the darkness of the night stretches over you, the shelter becomes a world unto itself. There is no rush, no more urgency, only the stillness of the moment. The wind outside fades into a faint whisper, and the shadows on the walls seem to grow softer, more distant. Each breath you take seems to deepen, sinking you further into comfort, into the peace that surrounds you. The warmth from the fire, the shelter, and the world you've created here becomes a gentle, constant presence, urging you into a slow, peaceful drift. The weight of the night pulls gently at you, and the safety of the shelter cradles you. The fire's warmth has faded into your bones, its light dimmed but still felt, like the soft glow of memories. The air feels perfect now, neither too warm nor too cold, just the steady, comforting presence of a night well spent, of warmth shared, of survival secured. The world outside no longer matters. The shelter is your world now, a quiet, still space where everything has come together. There's nothing more to do, no more battles to fight, just the soft rise and fall of your breath, the warmth that holds you, and the slow, steady pull of sleep. The fire is still there, in your mind, flickering softly as you let go of the day. The shelter around you holds you in its embrace, the furs soft and comforting, the warmth of the night settling in. The world beyond, the cold, the wilderness, they are all distant now, softened by the warmth you've created here. The rhythm of your breath slows, deepens. The shadows on the walls seem to blur, fading into the quiet of the night. The warmth of the fire, of the shelter, of the clothing that surrounds you, all become one gentle presence, cocooning you in comfort, drawing you deeper into rest. As the fire's glow dims completely, you feel the world around you soften. The sounds of the night fade into the distance, and the shelter becomes a perfect, tranquil space. Just you, the warmth, the stillness of the night, and the promise of rest. The quiet rhythm of the world around you becomes a lullaby, guiding you gently towards sleep, toward dreams of warmth and safety, of shared fires and quiet moments by the hearth. And as the last ember of the fire fades away, the darkness envelops you completely, but you are not alone. You are wrapped in the warmth of the shelter, in the quiet glow of a night well spent, in the peace of the world you've created.